So, you want to get started with Unreal Engine. You will need to install the Epic Games Launcher. And in order to install, you can just go to Google, type in Epic Games Launcher download, and run the installer. Now, once you've installed the Epic Games Launcher and let it run and did all that good stuff, you can open it up. And in here, you'll see on the top right that I have a launch Unreal Engine. Now for you it'll say to install, and you can pick which version you want to install. Right? There's 3 recent ones, and if you've installed any previous ones, then those should show up as well. And once again, 5.7 is about to release, so if you're going to start a project, then just be mindful of what version you do, because sometimes with updates they actually break some of your code, just because certain terms and functions that you might reference are deprecated. So just keep that in mind as you are working. So now there's one thing that I want to bring up before, and this will help you kind of get something started so you have something to work with instead of just having a blank screen when you open up Unreal Engine and they're just like, oh, where do I go from here? So if we go to the fab on the left side, right, and it might take a second to load, but yeah, so you come here, you'll see that it has a limited time free. Now these assets and these things, they have a rotating set that they partner with different creators with, where you get these assets for free to use with your Unreal Engine project. So if you're just barely starting, which is probably why you're watching this video, then you can get whatever free assets are there at this time. So right here we have the Kitbash 3D asset pack here, and it's really high quality, looks really well done, but when you're watching this video, or if you install it at a different time, there might be a different rotation. So go ahead and, before moving on from here, go ahead and pause the video and download whatever free asset packs that they have so that you're able to get started. Now, if you want to see previews of the different ones, then you can pull up the YouTube videos. And from here you can kind of see kind of like a little preview. Most asset packs will have this, some might not, but they basically just showcase it to say this is what you're getting. But yeah, so go ahead and get these free asset packs, and that'll give you something to get started with. And sometimes they have like special effects, even programming and animations and different things like that. But every month this rotates, so go ahead and download the ones. And once you're ready, go ahead and go back to the Unreal Engine section and click Launch Unreal Engine. And once you click it, it should open up Unreal Engine. And it's going to take a second. The initial startup can sometimes take a while, but here is your different options. So now that we're here, what we can do is we can decide to select a type of template. So it'll open up by recent projects by default, but go into your games or film or whatever template best suits your need, and you want to choose a template. And the reason why is because in blank, then it doesn't have any of the coding, programming, and things like that. Now you can technically add them later, but it's just a lot simpler just to start with one of these templates so that there's a lot of stuff already done for you. So I am going to select the first person template, because why not, right? This is just a demonstration. And one thing you want to realize about the quality preset is you definitely do not want to do maximum if you don't have a little bit higher end PC. I find that the maximum settings on Unreal Engine is way too hard on most PCs, but for me, I'm probably going to leave it at maximum. And now you can change it to scalable here, and then also you have your target platform, which is desktop. If you want to do mobile, there's different options there. And as far as the variant goes, let's see, yeah, Arena and Survivor. I think we'll do Survival, yeah. And for my project, you can just pick the name of your project. This is where it's going to be, or this is what it's going to be saved as. And on the left side here is where it is going to be saved. So I'm just going to name it Getting Started and say Create, right? Alrighty, so now we have our opening level, right? So, and now, if I press play, and you can just, it's this button right here, if you just left click here, you can see that it is first person, right? Now, if you pull up the content browser, now by default, it's not locked in like this, actually. Right, so if I close this out, so mine was locked in, so I believe by default you're actually left with this, where you don't have the content browser. If you press Control Spacebar, it'll bring it up, and you'll have over here on the right side dock and layout. Right, there we go. And that will dock it in here so that it's always up. Usually when I'm building a level, then I like to have it this way, and if I'm testing a level, I like to get rid of it, right? And I like to have something like this up instead, because this will usually tell you what's going on and if there's any errors. But anyways, so once you're started, the way you move around is if you do left click, you will rotate and move kind of in a flat line. You'll exclude the up and down, or in Unreal it's the Z-axis. I believe in Unity it would be the Y-axis, if I'm not mistaken. But the way you do it, and then you can right click and it feels the same, except you can rotate in 360 if you hold right click and drag the mouse, and then you can use the W, A, S, and D keys to move around just like a video game. And then Q is down, E is up, and that's how you navigate. That's how you just move your camera around the scene. So now let's get into how to kind of like move objects around, right? So if we select something, you can see this gizmo, right here, this guy right here. So to move, you can use the W, the E, and the R keys to switch between the different modes, and there are ones you're probably all familiar with if you use the 3D software. You have movement, where you can move it on these axes, right? And the white dot is to move it in all axes, like this. If you click one of the squares, then it moves it in just two of the axes, right? So if I get in a better position, so I can click it, there we go, right? So I can move it up in that way, but it won't move in the x-axis, right? And then if you press E, that activates rotate, right? You can rotate these things, right? And then scale, right? You can make it bigger or smaller depending on whatever axis you're using. So that's kind of the basic navigations for Unreal Engine. And over here on the right side, you'll see all the different location, rotation, and scale. And if you ever want to reset an object back to its original state, you can just click this undo arrow right here on the right side, and it will automatically reset that thing. And if we do that, you can see that Epic Games had already scaled this up to fill this platform before, right? And if you want to do that, you can just scale it back up like that. So that is the basics of navigation in Unreal Engine. Alrighty, so now that you know the basics of animation, or not animation, Unreal Engine, sorry, I'm going to quickly show you something as kind of like a, what you can do to kind of like get started and kind of like get familiar with the software. Is like before, right? I showed you the free assets, right? So what I would recommend you do to get familiar with the software is actually import or add some of these assets to a project and just experiment with it, right? So if I go to my library, in fact, that's a good point to kind of, as an FYI for you guys, is once you have this, now you can either try to download it directly, right? So if I go here and I go here, right, then what you can do is you can add to project. Now, once this limited time free is up, it's saved in my library, right? So if I go to my library, this is where you'll find the asset packs that you've essentially purchased for free. Air quotes there, you know, quote unquote purchase because it's for free. But you'll find the asset packs here forever. I mean, once you've gotten them, they're yours. Or you can find it in your Unreal Engine section in the library, and they're right here. Now, for example, right, if I click on Fabigan, sorry, I keep going back and forth on you, but I just want to see what the name of this one was. It's called Dieselpunk. So if I go to my library and I just search for a diesel, I spelled that wrong. There it is, right? So I will have Dieselpunk here. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you download, right? So for me, if you look at my cached assets here, I've got 1.4 terabytes of assets. So just keep in mind that, you know, after using assets for a long time, you know, at this point it's been a couple years since I started getting the free pack, so I have a ton of assets. Your storage can get full, and what you can do is, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so what you'll need to do is you'll need to add to project. Now, by default, it'll say that there's no compatible, but that's just because the version that you did doesn't match any of your current projects, right? And that's just the whatever version that the creator of the pack said it was. So if I go to, for example, I did getting started, right? It'll give you the option of doing a version, right? And these are all the different versions that the pack has been made for. I would just do the latest version, and I would say add to project. So now you'll see it's downloading the assets, and it will be adding them to the project. Now, once again, you know, after you've done a bunch of different assets, then your storage can get pretty full, right? Like mine's at 1.4 terabytes. Now, if it gets too full where your computer just doesn't have the space, all you have to do is click on this arrow and say remove local content, right? And that way you're not stuck with the assets and trying to hunt them down on your computer. You can just say, you know, once again, click it, remove local content. You will still have it. Once, if you delete it from your computer, you still have access to it. You can always download it later and use it. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if I go to settings here, wrong one. If I go to downloads, there we go. So if we're on downloads, then you've got your download settings. This right here is where the install directory is for your any games that you might download, right? This is where the actual Epic Games Launcher is stored, but you can specify a different place for your assets, right? Because, you know, what if you have multiple hard drives, or maybe you have an external hard drive that you want all your assets stored and you don't want to bog down your computer memory and all that, then you can plug in a new hard drive and you can just save it to here in the advanced directory, right? Your fab library data cache directly. So this is where it stores all of your assets as it's downloading. So once you have the asset pack installed or added to project, what I would do and I would recommend is I would actually suggest that you kind of practice moving things around, right? And even if it's just things like this, like you can move it around. But what you can do is you'll see in the content browser here that there's a new folder called Dieselpunk, right? So if we go into Dieselpunk and we go into geometries, then there's a bunch of assets here, right? And right now they look all white because the textures haven't all loaded. But if I bring one in, right, and let's minimize that, so you can see that it's got the textures, right? And if you bring an object above the floor right here and you click the end key on your keyboard, then it will drop the asset so that it's sitting on the ground. And if, for example, if you wanted it up here, sitting up here, it automatically puts it down until it comes into contact with another object. So you can set stuff there. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and if you wanted to go, let's bring that back. If you wanted to learn Unreal Engine, you'd want to do this basically. You'd take a bunch of these assets and build something interesting, right? And yeah, just going through, put in a couple of buildings. Now, if, for example, you didn't want to build every single aspect and every single object, with this particular pack, it's actually kind of nice. And I'm going to come back to the content browser here. And if we go into here and we go into actors, and I haven't really explained what an actor is, but essentially these are all blueprints, right? So if we go here, actors, these are all blueprints. Now, one thing I will want to warn you of with this particular pack that I found is when you draw or when you pull one of these actors in, then it can actually be it can take a while to load, especially these bigger ones. All right, so if I pull this bigger one in, then it will take a second, right? And that actually loaded faster than it was before. But yeah, for some of these, they can take a while to load, like that. Yep, here we go. This is what happened last time, before that you didn't see in the recording. Basically, you bring it in, and it just takes a second to load. It's a lot of textures, it's a lot of models, it's a lot of assets, and it can be kind of heavy on your computer, right? Same with this one, right? Bring that one in, and it can take a while to load. But if you were looking to essentially just, you didn't want to build everything specifically, right? Because you see this one, this actually looks really, really good. And so if you wanted to use buildings and build an entire city, you can. Right? I'm just going to delete these for now. But yeah, what I would do is I would go through with the free asset packs that they've given you, and I would come in and I would build something, you know, bring in this building or this building, right? And as you can see, right, the individual objects load and are brought in much quicker than those blueprints were, right? So yeah, I would go through and I would kind of just build something, right? Kind of put things together, and you can build an entire city. You can build just one building maybe, but yeah, that would be the next step if you wanted to learn the software, is pick one of the free asset packs and play around with it. Move the assets around, build something new, experiment, and that would get you kind of a little bit more comfortable with Unreal Engine.